as I stated, this is all basically the same method, but we're going to be organizing them in different ways. So again, I have my A equaling to 9, my C equaling to 4, and that means that my AC equals 36. And then I have my B equal to 12. So I'm looking for two numbers that add to give me 12, Y to give us 36. Well, 6 and 6 is the easiest route. So, for this method of organization, this is actually referred to as the box method. I've heard it called the Xbox method, but you can draw a box however ugly it might be, and we're going to make it to where it has 4 spots. In the top left, we put 9x squared. In the bottom right, we're going to put 4. And then our other 2 spots are going to be filled with whatever numbers here and x. So 6x, 6x. So now we're going to focus on individual rows. So first, we'll look at this top row, this 9x squared and this 6x. And the 9x squared and the 6x give us greatest common factor, 3x. Okay, now we are going to glance at the bottom 2. So the bottom 2, this 6x and this 4, we ask ourselves the same question. What is the greatest common factor of these two? And the greatest common factor of these two is clearly the number 2. So we have 2. Now we look at the verticals. So when we look at the verticals, we are going to start with the left-hand side and then look at the right-hand side. On our left-hand side, we have a 9x squared and a 6x. That does indeed give us a 3x again. Okay, and then we look at the right-hand side. And on our right-hand side, we have a 6x and a 4, which is still, yeah, that's still visible underneath that. We have a 6x and a 4, and our 6x and our 4, when we use them, or when we factor out the greatest common factor between the two, we end up with just a 2, which means that our two multiples here are 3x plus 2 and 3x plus 2, which effectively means that we are looking at 3x plus 2 squared. Okay. The one more that I'm going to look at, I'm looking at because of the fact of what my two numbers are going to end up being. So let's pull this out. We have our A is 2 and our C, let's do our C first. our C is -4. Those two multiply to give me -8. And then my B is 7. So I'm looking for two numbers that add to give me 7, but multiply to give me -8. And this is clearly 8 and -1. And I'm going to do this using the box method. So I have my box, and if you remember the way that we set it up, this 2x squared and this -4 go in the top left and the bottom right respectively. Then we take the two numbers that we found and put an x with them, so 8x and -x. And we do the same thing that we had done. First, we're going to go across the top. So I'm looking at this direction and I'm asking what is the greatest common factor of this? 2x being my answer. And then I'm also going to do the same thing with these bottom two. X at -x and -4, they do have a common factor. And because they have a common factor, -1. Essentially, because both of these numbers are negative, we end up with a negative out here. These two right here, when we go up, and I'll put up in a green color, so I'll look at these two first. They have an x in common, so I'll pull out an x, and then I'll look at these two. They have a 4 in common, so I pull out a 4. So my answer, my factored form of this expression is 2x minus 1, x plus 4. Okay. Okay, so we're going to look at this one, and we're looking at this one for a few reasons. We're going to look at it using the box method again. And the reason that I'm doing the box method is because it does have some quirks about it that if you decide you like, we need to make sure that you are following well. So we started off just like we do any of these. Our A is 2. Our C is 5. And our B is -7. A times C is going to give us 10. So we need two numbers that add to give us -7, but multiply to give us 10, and those two numbers have to be -2 and -5. So we're going to set up our box. In the top left-hand corner goes our 2x, in the bottom 2x squared, in the bottom right corner goes our 5. And then these two numbers with whatever variable we're dealing with, in this case an x, take up the other two. And it really doesn't matter the order that they're in. Okay, so we are going to start by looking at our top and bottom. So we're going to be going across. And I look at what are the common factors of those. Well, that would be a 2 and an x. I'm going to do the same thing here. Ask what is the common factor of these two? It's a 5. We'll do the same thing going up and down. So I look at these two. The common factor is an x. And I look at these two. And the common factor is a 1. Okay, this is fine, except for the fact that if we were to multiply these out, we would have 2x plus 5 times x plus 1. And if we multiply this out, we get 2x squared plus 7x plus 5. And this part is clearly not correct. So how can we ensure that we always get the right answer? And the way that we do that is we look at this and this. We look at those two columns, or those two squares. They're both negative. And because they are both negative, we're going to make the square that's beside them negative. So if the square that's touching a value is negative, the square beside it becomes negative, and vice versa. And now this gives us the actual answer that we are looking for. We now have 2x minus 5 and x minus 1. Okay, that will do it for this video. What we discussed was factoring trinomials using 3 different organizational methods. We used a box method, we used a grouping method, and we used a kind of simplifying the question method. I will see you in the next one.